All right, welcome to another special edition of Hit the Books, part of the Hammer Betting Network, and we are previewing our conference previews for the upcoming 2024 season. Today, we are talking the Sun Belt, but before I get to the man, the myth, the legend himself, Joey Knish, before I give credit to who will do a wonderful job, producer extraordinaire Zach Phillips, let's talk about a new sponsor, and I'm excited about this. We have a new sponsor this upcoming season, starting with these conference previews. You might have heard of this book. I mean, there's about as big as it gets country in the United States. It's called FanDuel. You might have heard of it. And Hit the Books is sponsored now by FanDuel. And obviously, it's an industry leader, to say the least. It's one of the best products and prices that you find in the market, specifically in what we like to talk about on this show, college football. There's about as much college football offerings, and especially at an early date, whether it's the off season, whether it's early in the week during the season. Nobody really does it better than FanDuel, often first to market when it comes to college football prices, whether it's win totals, individual games, you name it. Great live menu as well if you're interested in that. Lots of fun, different types of bets. I know all of you like those same game parlays. Obviously, you can get those at FanDuel. Easy to use. You get fast payouts. Can't recommend FanDuel enough. Now, I will say this. We're still a few weeks away from the college football season kicking off. In the meantime, there's a little thing called Major League Baseball. That's the only thing getting us through these dog days of summer. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all of their customers with a boost or bonus each and every day. That's right. There's something for everyone every day for the rest of the summer. You can take your boost or bonus and bet on everything Major League Baseball related, whether it's home runs, the strikeouts, even the final score. Plus, with FanDuel, you can combine your bets in a live same-game parlay for a shot at an even bigger payout. So head on over to FanDuel.com and start racking up some runs in the sun. Knish, speaking of sun, I like that. This good transition. How about the Sun Belt? We recently did a conference preview on the MAC. We talked about the downfall of the MAC from where it was 10, 15 years ago. Let's be positive on this one. I don't think there's a single conference, regardless if it's a small conference or a big conference, that's more improved over the last 15, 20 years than the Sun Belt, who used to be by far the worst. I think they're on their way to being the best small conference in college football. Why? Geographically speaking, they are where you want to be when it comes to recruiting, a recruiting profile, because they get all these kids that aren't good enough to go to the big schools in the SEC. And my goodness, this is a conference, as far as an average team power rating, they're showing it even on the field here in recent years, a very deep conference.
Yeah, as you said, I mean, this is SEC light now. I would say is almost pretty much unquestionably now the best G5 conference, and a conference this year that's absolutely stacked. I mean, on both divisions, top to bottom, we'll just say, because we're just coming off the MAC preview. I think there's 8 teams in this conference that could win the MAC. And sure, that could, if you put them, if you plop them in the MAC, I could be like, this team might should be the favorite in this one. And that's unbelievable from, as you're saying, where it was even 10 years ago, 15 years ago, even from a couple of years ago, where I don't think there was that type of separation. But now this league absolutely loaded, and they've made, talk about a great deal with James Madison being like, coming in and being like, we're going to poach, one of the 2 best FCS schools that fit our geographics, fit in terms of recruiting. And now it's a conference on both sides that is loaded, to say the least.
Now, I will say this. I don't know if they're going to match last year's historic season as far as the conference, mainly because we saw 3 of the top teams lose their head coaches. I mean, they're getting poached as far as coaching staffs, that being James Madison, the 2-time defending champ, Sun Belt champ in Troy, and also South Alabama. But I don't think these teams in some instances are going to take as big of a step back, and we'll get to them, teams that I'd be more concerned about in other conferences like the MAC. I am going to start at the top, though. It's in Boone, North Carolina. Man, if you want to see small school places to go, Boone, North Carolina's got to be at one of your top of the list as far as small school stadiums. I've been there, beautiful area of the country, and it's a team that finally started getting their act together at the end of last season, obviously making the Sun Belt Championship game. And this year, they're the best team, at least start coming in the season as far as the pure power rating goes. You like what you got coming back, 13 returning starters for them. You like some coaching continuity, unlike compared to like some of those other schools that I mentioned, James Madison, Troy, and South Alabama. You also like the schedule, outside of the road trip to Clemson, which is the only clear-cut underdog role for them. You get the big-time game against Liberty at home. You get James Madison at home. You avoid some of the powers from the West Division, particularly Texas State. I like this App State team quite a bit. I like their prices in the marketplace, though, earlier in the summer. I think the 8.5 win total price where it's at now is where it should be. But there were some better numbers there early in the summer. I was a little bit more optimistic, at least early in the summer, on the prices on App State. Even though I will say this, not a huge fan of the head coach. And the offensive line, some concerns there. Unfortunately, they had a terrible tragedy. Their best returning offensive lineman actually died at the end of spring. So that would be my one concern about this App State team.
Yeah, no, obviously said really a rough moment for the team there. Hopefully they can rally around that in upcoming. But you know what? On the football side of things, I agree with you where Sean Clark, App State it has been kind of a feeder place for a while where, if you can go in there and you can have big time success, you're looking for that next job. No one's really, the Power 5 teams aren't coming to calling for Sean Clark. So that kind of leaves them in this little bit of a quandary around, he's good enough with the talent he gets to win, but maybe not win at the level that App State and they expect there. Joey Aguilar, a guy who's first half of the, couple games you might have thought, woof, they've really taken a step back here after losing Bryce at quarterback. But second half of the year, he was cooking. The offense got cooking. They return a bunch, as you said, in terms of quarterback, skills, position, talent. Yep. And I think the offense will be very good. Defensively, now they were young. They return a lot of talent. Can they get back to that App State? I mean, that was always their calling card when App State was winning the Sun Belt and being one of the better G5 teams in the country. It was defense. That had kind of fallen off the last few seasons. Can they get back there? To me, that determines whether they're a 7 or 8 win team or a 9 or 10 win team. So yeah, I think the offense will be very good. Defense, a lot to prove. But again, probably player to player, the best team in this conference. With that said, not again, I'm agree with you. Some of the early prices were more attractive. Do I want to bet them 270 in a conference that I think there's 7 or 8 teams that can be in this conference title game? No, that's a pass for me.
Agreed. It's kind of a little pricey. And again, trust factor is not completely there as far as the head coach. Even though it's only his second year of being a head coach in FBS action, a guy that I am starting to trust a lot is the next head coach or the next team. I don't know if there's a program as far as a power rating from when we were talking about this team in the summer last year to how we're talking about this team right now that's improved as significantly as Texas State. And I don't think it's a one-year wonder. G.J. Kinney, that coach I'm talking about, might be one of the best offensive minds, young offensive minds in all of college football. Took over an Incarnate Word team, won immediately. They had North Dakota State on the ropes at North Dakota State in the playoffs, a game that they easily could have won. He takes Texas State year one. This is a team that never had been to a bowl game, never had a winning season in FBS play. And then they're in a bowl game. They're a legit team. Yeah, you would like to see them a little bit be more consistent on a week in and week out basis. But when they were on. And I expect them to be on more often than not this year. I can't believe they're going to upgrade at quarterback. You lose a guy like TJ Finley. You're like, they're going to take a step back this year. So what does he do? Goes in the transfer portal, gets the Sun Belt Offensive Player of the Year at James Madison last year. And Jordan McLeod, they get him to transfer over. So I don't think the offense misses a beat. The Mahdi kid at running backs as good as it can be. They get the top 2 running backs from UTEP who are both really good there. I think and this is maybe the best offense at the G5 level here at Texas State. Defense needs to be a little bit better on a consistent basis. I like the Bell kid off the defensive end. I like the schedule too, especially when you get some. You talk about. I forgot to mention. App State getting that key game against Liberty when you're talking about who's going to make the playoff at this level, because obviously the G5 gets a playoff bid this year. App State hosting Liberty could be a good feather in their cap, and I can tell you what could be a really good feather in Texas State's cap is having 2 winnable games at home against UTSA and Arizona State. If they can win those two, and I think they're both kind of toss-ups, boy, I mean, this could be, the playoff favorite, at least at the G5 level, to get that bid after just week 3. So I like the schedule. It's similar to App State. I like the pricing 3 months ago compared to what I do now. I think the market's kind of on top of this.
Yeah, this is one that people definitely caught on in terms
even today. Like, I'm talking a couple hours before we did this show, there was money continuing to pour in on this Texas State team.
Yeah, and you can see why. I mean, you listed it. The offense should be absolutely electric again. Ben Bell, who you mentioned, defensive end. The only guy in college football who had a better pressure rate at the edge last year was UCLA's Latu Latu, who went 15th overall, went in the first round.
First defensive player taken.
Yeah. And that guy, I think he was, I'm going to pull it up here. He had a 21.8% pressure rate, the next best in the country, Ben Bell, 20.1. So you're talking about a big time guy at the edge for them, a guy who, has an NFL future. Mix that with some of the other young talent they had on defense. And I mean, GJ, I don't know, somebody's cutting checks down there in San Marcos because he brought in some talent last year from the portal. He brought in some more talent this year. I don't know what he's selling down there, but it's working. And I don't know, I mean, maybe they got the boosters, the NIL collectives going, because this is a very talented Texas State team, and one that 2 years ago was not at all. He comes in, he starts bringing in guys, and you talk about not just in terms of his offensive IQ, but his roster management and what he's been able to do.
Yeah,
I would say if things go like we think they'll go, this is DJ Kinney's and not to rain on the parade of San Marcos, but this is his last year at Texas State. I would expect him to get a
power job.
Yeah, a power job, or maybe an NFL OC type job after this season if it goes how we think it'll go. With that said, on the betting aspect, this has been a popular one. If there's one left that I think it would be
playoff.
Exactly. Yeah, that's where I was going. Zach, if
let's
you can
go.
Pull up,
let's do it. Yeah, I love that bet
to make the playoff, because I think that was a lot. The conference title's gotten bet down. The win totals got bet up. To make the playoff has kind of hung around at somewhat of a more attractive price that hasn't gotten as beat up in the market. So I think, what was it, 16-1 here that I was seeing when I looked earlier? Yeah, 16-1 to make the playoff at FanDuel for Texas State. To me, I think that's worth a little bit of it, because I tell you what, if this team wins the Sun Belt and looks as attractive with that type of talent, I think there's a shot, especially after, maybe a Liberty or something goes undefeated. A 10-2 Sun Belt champ with this type of talent that looks good, I think the committee might say to themselves, that team gives whoever they're going to face a better game, a more attractive game to play in the playoff than a Conference USA Liberty, who got smashed in a game versus Oregon last year. So I think the narrative could be there. I like 16-1 worth a little bit of a sprinkle. Do you?
I do, and I bet it at exactly that price. So I love that bet. It's I've said this on other shows. That would be my long shot to make the playoffs favorite bet that I made.
If I'm on the committee, I want the Sun Belt champ. To me, I want them in that. That's my G5 team, because of how stacked this conference is. I'm going to make the case. I don't care what's going on elsewhere. And I know some people like Boise, some people, Liberty probably runs the table versus, their peasant schedule. But hey, you give me the Sun Belt champ. Texas State wins this Sun Belt this year, and 10-11 wins. I think they got a real good shot to be that playoff entrant.
You bring up a good point. It is a TV show. So you got to think about what would be attractive. This Texas State offense, like we've said, could be the best at the G5 level. Although I think Boise State probably gets benefited out for brand recognition.
Fair.
So, but I still like it. I bet it at this exact price. I love that we're going in on a long shot to make the playoff. And can you imagine us saying this a year ago when I was betting under their win total at 4.5? And now I'm thinking that they can make a college football playoff. That just shows you what he's done. And they were such an unknown last year. He hit a home run on almost everybody they took with them from Incarnate Word, other players that he brought in. Very smart individual. This will be his last year in San Marcos. let's talk about a guy we've been big fans of for a while at the FCS level, and I think it was a really smart hire for James Madison. We love Bob Chesney, their new head coach. We don't necessarily love what they come back, what has coming back as far as returning production. Only 6 returning starters, basically half the team, literally, and almost all the good players left with Signetti to go to Indiana. So a little bit of a rebuild here for Chesney, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I won't talk at length here, but one of the reasons I've given him the benefit of the doubt is they play maybe one of the weakest schedules in the Sun Belt. And I don't see a lot of, games outside of at North Carolina, at App State that are scaring me. In fact, I think they're probably favored in their 10 other games on the schedule. So are they anywhere near what they were from a power ratings aspect each of the last couple of years? No. You got to downgrade them at least a touchdown. But my God, I don't know if the win-loss record gets that much worse this year, just due to a relatively advantageous schedule.
I tell you, there's no show in that any facet of college football, even if in the great Northeast, that loves Bob Chesney like we do on this show. I cannot tell you how much. I mean, you talk about after losing Signetti being kind of like, where are we going to go? I love that hire. I love you. You talk about, this was a guy who, when he was at Holy Cross, had South Dakota State on the ropes in the playoffs at South Dakota State.
With a non-scholarship team.
Yeah, non-scholarship team. To even make it hard, I mean, this is a guy, you've seen a lot of, the premium FCS coaches, when they come, they usually bring a lot of their guys with them. At Holy Cross, he didn't really have FBS level talent, and that many. I think he brought 1 or 2 guys on the defense, but those guys weren't there. So he's doing this at the FCF level. And what he was able to do there is fantastic. I think he will, with James Madison's budget and recruiting chops, I think he'll get it rolling. But as you said, they did lose a ton of talent. Brought in some guys. I know Dylan Morris comes over from Washington. Brought in a couple of guys from the lower levels that to fill some gaps. As you said, I think from a win total perspective, this could be a team where, the schedule, it's a nice transition year in terms of.
That's going to look high for a lot of people, but it's just that they play such a weak schedule.
Yeah. It's just one, I don't think, it's not one even at 850 that I don't think this is a Sun Belt championship team. It could break right for them to get, the right games in there. Maybe they make the championship, but I wouldn't have them as, I would say they're more talent-wise 5th, 6th, 7th best team in the Sun Belt, and being priced up there, obviously, because of the schedule. So nothing for me on where the win total's at or the conference futures, but hey, love the hire, love the direction of the program.
Yeah, and I have not bet their win total, so and we haven't seen too much movement. A little bit on the under, but it's not like it's moved to half win. It's just the juice has moved a little bit, but love, like you mentioned, love the hire. And if you guys just mentioned some random South Dakota State game in the playoffs, go watch Holy Cross play Boston College last year. Go watch Holy Cross should have beaten Army. Go watch that game. That game was very misleading. They dominated Army in the box score. So he's a really good coach. I'm just saying, look out in the future. And they are not afraid to spend money there. They have facilities. I've been there. This is a program that's not going away. Louisiana's next, a team that a lot of people are extremely high on. This Louisiana team, whether it's win total, conference futures. I originally took a pretty good position. At least I thought. I was pessimistic on Louisiana. I even told you under 8.5 wins, I thought was good to go because I don't like the coach that much. He's entering his 3rd year off back-to-back losing seasons. I think a lot is expected of this team to automatically make that jump. Now, I will say, I've upgraded their power rating as much as any team in this conference. The strength of schedule, is relatively weak. I can kind of see it, but you're at Texas State. Don't like you there. I still like App State better than you. The Tulane game's kind of a toss-up at Wake Forest. A lot of people seem to be higher on Louisiana than me. Where are you at on this team?
You know what? I'd love to go some back and forth here, but I'm in lockstep with you. I can't believe, I will say of the conference futures that are out there right now, this would be like the least attractive price to me in the market is betting Louisiana at where it's at currently at the 550. I want no part of that. There's teams, I would almost say the next 4-5 5-6 teams in a row, I would rather bet at bigger prices than taking this 550. I just don't think this team is particularly elite in any aspect. As you say, after Napier left, it
fell big time hard. That's not good when you're going from 13-1 to losing record.
Right. So, Desormeaux, as I'll say here, I just haven't, particularly, and I know they bring back a decent amount there on a lot of the offensive line and, the running the ball. And so I see it in some aspects, some of the, the positivity, but the ceiling on this team to me is not Sun Belt champion. So no, I'm with you. I know we both, took part in some of that early FanDuel, regular season win total number. And hey, guess what? If it gets back there, I'm fine.
Again. Yeah.
I say, I don't mind.
That was one we did hit at FanDuel. FanDuel was, I think, first to market. I'm like, let's go under.
So, I know that I will say at 7.5, it's probably a pass for me. But an 8 or 8.5, if it gets back there, I'd be no problem double dipping in that pool for some more under there.
This is in the weeds. They got to figure out quarterback. And I know Woldrich and Fields and stuff are back, but the guy I really liked for them last year, Zeon Christ, before he got hurt, I was like, this is a guy you can build a program around, at least at the G5 level. He transferred. He's out to Houston. So Willie Fritz knows what he's doing there. I think that's a sneaky loss where you're looking at statistics, Zeon Christ, whatever. They got these guys coming back. I think they were building it, the program going to be built around him. Now he's gone. I am there. So, I'm not as wild about this team. And I know people are going to say regression because they've had such a terrible record in close games the last couple years. Hey, maybe it's just bad coaching. He's a young coach, not making, in a bunch of close games, which I expect to be the case even this year. And I got a guy that's proven that he doesn't make the right decisions. Under. Not at 7.5, though. So let's wait. There's enough people giving out overs on this team that I think we're going to maybe see it. So make sure you're watching Hit the Books, sponsored by FanDuel, the weekly show as we get closer and closer towards the season. Let's talk. Next couple programs we're going to talk about big time transitions, big time downgrades because they got new coaches. South Alabama, we'll talk first. Now, maybe there's a little bit more continuity here than at Troy, but South Alabama, new coach, Applewhite. You might have heard of him, Texas quarterback. Actually was Nick Saban's first offense coordinator at Alabama. But that's how much of his track record and was the offense coordinator here. So there's still some continuity here. But only 8 returning stars. They lose a bunch of guys. I'll say sneakily, and that's not a word, but I like using it. I like the quarterback. Remember, we got to see Lopez a couple times. I thought he hung in there tough against Troy in a bad spot last year. And I also like that what I love about bowl games now is they're kind of capping off the season. They are becoming more and more a preview for the upcoming season because a lot of guys opt out. And South Alabama, a lot of the key players that weren't starters all last season but did play in the bowl game went out and destroyed Eastern Michigan, Lopez being one of the stars of that game at quarterback. So this is a team that I thought was probably – look, I downgraded them more than a touchdown. Statistically, they were much better than their record last year. But I thought the market was kind of too down on them, at least in the early pricing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not, the biggest major – I don't love Major Applewhite as a coach in general. I don't think his, ceiling is that great. But for a South Alabama in his first year, I don't think it's a, what I would call a bad hire, a disastrous hire. And I agree. I mean, the entire offensive line returns. I don't think Carter Bradley was exactly particularly an elite player himself. Nope. So to say that, Gio Lopez, who I think showed some flashes, could come in and kind of match that production. Plus, where they were relatively active in the portal. So, replacing Colin Lacey is going to be tough. Damian Webb's out. It won't be as maybe overall talented a team as they had last year. But still, I think a lot to like on this team. And I'm kind of, it's not an attractive enough price for me to want to play. I don't think the ceiling is conference champion, especially in a tough conference. But I'd probably lean a little bit towards being a bit more optimistic on the win total. But again, one I haven't gotten involved in on either way, but I kind of like this roster. I think more so than kind of the negativity in the market.
Where are we at on the win total on this one? Because there's starting to be some people releasing stuff now. Yeah, it's a little too pricey. Shop around. If you get a little bit better juice, like in that minus 135 or less range, over 6.5, I think is good. But not at 160, because that's getting priced closer to 7 there. So, yeah, as always, shop around a little bit there. But we love FanDuel here. Next team, Troy. I mean, not hardly any continuity whatsoever. Only 5 returning starters, new coaching staff, lost a really good coach and John Summerall that came in and won immediately here. Not expecting the same for Jared Parker, who comes over from Notre Dame as an offense coordinator. Mixed results there at Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame people, for the most part, were happy that he's going to be the Troy head coach and that they upgraded. I downgraded Troy's power rating 10.5 points. And I'm usually conservative in those areas. Not expecting much for I mean, at least comparatively speaking, the 2-time defending Sun Belt champs probably fighting just to get the bowl eligibility this year. I don't know if I could say it any better.
Yeah, I mean, this, in terms of fall off, I think this is one of the risks. This is not a program that has a ton financially going for it. Do not love the hire. And I know you're plugged into the ND stuff down there. And as you said, not a lot of people, really, go into the tissue box when he was leaving. So I don't love that. Mix in all of this is a team that was just stacked on defense. Best G5 defense last few years, I think, almost without question. I remember what they did at South Alabama because I had South Alabama futures at some great prices there on the road there. That defense was just absolute nails.
Yeah, 2 years ago. I know what you're saying.
Yeah. And now, and you know what? All good things eventually come to an end. So, it's going to look a lot different at Troy. In terms of what they brought back, it's not much. I don't think they haven't been active enough in the portal to fill the holes. So, I think, unfortunately, I kind of lean towards an under 6.5 here as far as a win total. Where are you on? I
can't get there at that price.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm still looking at it. Nevada's an easy game. Florida A&M. So there's 2 wins in non-conference. Monroe, we're going to talk about them. They're terrible. I'm just not there. I think Southern Miss is at home. That's probably a win. I'm just not there. I would probably lean there. Not best bet, though. Not the current numbers. We could come back to it. If you want to go under 6.5 best bet, I
wouldn't say it's a bet. I definitely, if I'd lean that way. I don't know if I'd put it in the best bet category because I know there's been some better price up, but I would lean under. I just struggle to see this team getting to 7.
I think we got to bet on the next team, a fun one, because everybody I know wants to bet a little to win a lot, and we'll see. Maybe you're too anti this coach, but Arkansas State's the next team in line, and I'll tell you why I like this Arkansas State team. I follow recruiting, and I think it's kind of a precursor. You can kind of see it coming down the pike. And I hated what I saw from Butch Jones as far as his first couple of years here, but finally clicked last year. That was his best team. And I think this year's team's even better. And I look at recruiting. Why do I bring it up? Because Arkansas State's had stacked together 3 top 80 classes together in 3 straight years. Maybe doesn't sound like great. That's really good at the G5 level to have 3 straight years in the top 80. So I think, in some aspects, this is going to be one of the most talented rosters in the Sun Belt. I like their young dynamic quarterback. That's when they took off last year when Rayner took over at quarterback. Let's have some fun here in the conference futures market when you're talking about new coaches at South Alabama, Troy, James Madison. We didn't like some of the price movement with we think Louisiana's a little overrated, too much buy. On obviously Texas State so far. I like Arkansas State, a long future to win the conference. 16-1, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, they brought in, not only did they have a Rayner kind of basically get it going second half of last year. They brought in, Timmy McClain from UCF, Malik Hornsby from Texas State. This is a team that
there's some weapons.
Yeah, they got some weapons. They got some exciting athletes. That's a pretty stacked, athletic room for at the G5 level. So, and I agree, as you mentioned, they returned some nice talent. They've been recruiting well, kind of like this year. And again, Butch Jones, I wouldn't say he's not going to be on the Joey K Hall of Fame for coaches here, but I tell you what, I don't mind. It started off bad, real ugly. He has slowly been, because I tell you, he replaced Blake Anderson, one of my favorite all-time coaches at the G5 level, and what he was able to do at Arkansas State and then Utah State before being let go recently. But I thought this tenure was going to crater. He's been able to kind of claw back out of there, and Butch Jones finally get to a year where, this team should definitely be a bowl team and maybe can make a little noise. I don't mind that for a sprinkle there as far as conference title future. So, in turn, especially because, we've talked that there hasn't been that many G5 futures that we've loved in terms of, any long shots. That's one I think's got a little juice.
Yeah, I think so. Boy, I thought he'd been fired last year. If you watch those first two games against Oklahoma and Memphis, you're like, he's cooked, he's done. And then they turn it on. Sometimes that happens when you start stacking recruiting classes together. Michigan and Iowa State, I don't like non-conference, but man, conference schedule. Look, Texas State, we love Texas State. There's a reason why. But outside of that, they get South Alabama and Troy at home. They don't play App State. They don't play James Madison. So this team, wouldn't be a stunning, shock to see them, definitely late in the season with a chance to get to the Sun Belt championship game. So I'll take that at 16-1. What win total? What's the win total? That's been all over the market. It's opened as low as 5. I've seen as high as 6.5. It kind of depends there. It's all over the board. Yeah, I don't like 6.5. No. Nope. On that one. And you can see why the 6.5 is juiced to the under. So there's a little bit of indifference on this team as far as how to price them. We're a little bit more optimistic. Another team that's kind of meandering in the market, different schools of thoughts on this team because they got a much different roster than what they've had the last 3-4 years, that being Coastal Carolina. Second year for their head coach, who I thought actually did a decent job last year, particularly in the bowl game, beating San Jose State to get to 8 wins. Coastal Carolina's up next. I know a lot of people are saying Grayson McCall's gone. Grayson McCall wasn't playing quarterback for Coastal the last half of the season. They actually got decent quarterback play. Mm-hmm. The problem is they got a lot of roster turnover, even though 12 returning stars, but man, everybody else, it seems like, guys that are in too deep are gone. You and I bet an over 5.5 early. There's a lot of people coming back in under 6.5. I prefer our over 5.5 still on this team.
I tend to agree with you. It's a program and a
team. Well, if you don't, let me know so we can get heads back a full win difference.
No, I listen. I like I know some others in the market like the under 6.5. I prefer our over 5.5 position. I think they got. Especially, starting out the first 4 weeks, 4 out of 5 very winnable games. And I don't think even Virginia's that great with that, going as far as an
get them at home, they'll be fired up to have that game at home.
So it's a team, especially, in the non-con that I kind of like how the schedule shapes up. They brought in, they brought Noah Kim in from Michigan State, who was decent over there for some depth at the quarterback room. To have, go along with Ethan Vasco and I think Tad Hudson as well. So they've got some options at quarterback. They brought in some other transfers. It's a program that I think recruits decently well, has done all right in the portal, bringing some guys there. Kind of, a place that's in the Coastal Carolina. Nice, not hard to get people to, to the beach there. So
Myrtle Beach area, if you're not familiar.
Yeah. I think the schedule sets up all right. I think there's enough still on the team. Again, they lost a decent amount, but I think they brought in enough to kind of stem the tide. I don't see this team falling off a cliff to 4 or 5 wins, that type of thing. So again, I think it'll be a 6-6 or better type scheme. Probably not a conference championship threat, but one that, if that gets, again, it's moved around a little bit, but if the negativity keeps the forefront, that's another, call it the hit the books double dip. That would be another one at 5.5, even with some juice. I wouldn't mind going back in on.
We might have to coin that for because we do obviously a couple shows each week. We might hit the books double dip. I like that.
Yeah,
I might have to do some of that.
Yeah, tell Zach to make sure we got that.
Yeah, we might be doing that more this year. I like that. Also, this is in the weeds, but we're getting more closer to the season. A little bit more liquidity in the week 1 markets. Very intriguing game that they play at Jacksonville State. We're seeing more money on Coastal. Did you see that? That went from above 3 to 3 in the last couple of days of the market getting trade. So that tells me we're probably, outside, a win total market can be obviously less liquid. And some people just don't even bother because you're tying up money. I think reading the tea leaves a little bit more in that week 1 game at Jacksonville State with more and more money coming on Coastal tells me that I like our over 5.5 position there. A team that we don't like as much. Next up, Marshall. Only 7 returning starters. And keep in mind, this is not like they got a new coach. This is a coach that should be entering the prime of his tenure here after getting things going early, including an outright upset over Notre Dame just a couple of years ago. But, man, a ton of roster turnover, to say the least. Bring in 30-plus transfers, but lost 30-plus transfers. And also lost potentially what was supposed to be one of their big incoming transfers at quarterback, the kid from Wake Forest, and all of a sudden, nope, he's not going to be the quarterback. So I don't like the schedule. Virginia Tech and Ohio State might bang you up early, and when not having a lot of continuity, I'm a little bit more pessimistic on this Marshall team. I don't think they make a bowl game.
Yeah, this is one where, we talked up Texas State and what DJ Kinney was able to do in terms of personnel management, transfer portal, bringing in. I would say the majority of the time, though, we usually tend to lean more pessimistic when a team does that, and you're doing almost a full roster overhaul here. And that's kind of where I'd be with Marshall. Don't really love either of the Mitch Griff or Braylon Braxton, who they brought in as far as the quarterback room. I mean, everything, new receivers, tight ends, couple offensive line spots, ton on defense. Like, it's just like we shipped everybody out, bringing a new in. And Charles Huff, I mean, this is a Marshall team.
Should that be happening in year 4? I don't think so.
That's the problem is, when it's year 1 or 2 in a guy and you're kind of changing that out, then I think there can be some more what we'll call optimism in year 4, especially when they had some success previously.
Yeah.
I don't love that trend line there. So not particularly optimistic of where this program's heading at the moment, and did not love, especially at quarterback, some of the guys they brought in.
So let's do a little cross promotion here. I don't know how the algorithm works for YouTube, but if you're just watching because you're a fan of the Sun Belt and you're watching a conference preview to get you ready for the upcoming season, we also do a weekly Hit the Book show all off season. And as news is breaking that the quarterback from Wake Forest, Mitch Griffiths, wasn't going to come to Marshall, and he was just going to end his career, we gave out under 6.5 wins. Market has agreed so far. It's moved to full win. But we gave that out live on the show. I remember that as one of our best bets. So it's like, let's go ahead, under 6.5 wins. Here we go, baby. So love it. Next up.
I was going to say, I love under 6.5. 5.5 would be a little bit questionable.
Yeah, we're not recommending
under 6.5.
We're not recommending that. Georgia Southern next up. Boy, another kind of, coach that could go either way this year with Clay Helton in year 3. He's done an okay job transitioning Georgia Southern from the option offense, but last year left a little bit to be desired, especially the bowl game and the reports that were coming out of that bowl game. Speaking of Coastal Carolina and there in the Myrtle Beach area, it sounds like Georgia Southern was participating in some of the activities off the field there. Got blown out, and it's a tough team to power rate. Again, a lot of guys, their key guys not coming back. It's a team that me personally, I'm a lot more pessimistic on it. At least when I look at win total market, I bet the under. Boise State, I bet big. As far as week 1, that's fading Georgia Southern. So I don't see a lot of surefire wins on the schedule. Nevada probably on the road, although that's not a slam dunk in non-conference. Obviously the FCS game, and maybe at Georgia State, a rival. But there is the possibility that they're an underdog in their last 7 games. And by the way, they have not finished the season very well the last couple of years under Helton. So I'm kind of more on the under 5.5 on this team.
Yeah, no, I mean, and this is last year one of the, I think, the 5 worst defenses in the entire country. And now they bring a lot back. There's a lot of young guys, so a lot of mistakes being made, but was just brutal on defense this year. And this is you have to say, is Clay Helton's system, is it a Mike Leach? I can plug anybody into this and they'll throw for, that type of yardage. Because the quarterback room for a team that is going to have to be driven by offense and quarterback play, there's not a guy that I particularly love.
No, I agree. Who's going to be that guy? I don't know if you knew who the quarterback was going to be the last couple of years, the transfer.
Yeah. Yes. And now that to me is a big question mark. And if this system and this offense doesn't have a functional, or I would say a plus quarterback, then everything that Helton structures the team around falls apart. So again, could we be surprised by a couple of the guys maybe that they have there? But I didn't like Dexter Williams at Indiana. They had a couple other guys in camp. So it looks like the battle will go into the fall. And if this team can't put up, 4,000 yards passing, that type of thing that Clay Helton did in year 1, year 2, it ain't going to be carried by the defense. And I just don't see, a lot else to like here in terms of, they brought in some Division II guys, a wide receiver. So he were really kind of scraping the barrel here to kind of, backfill what they lost. And I don't think it's going to be enough.
Yeah. So if you got it, we'll see if we got better bets in the last 4 or 5 teams that we got here, but I certainly lean under 5.5 there.
Agreed.
Old Dominion's next. Maybe we have a best bet here. Speaking of pessimism, I have a lot of it on Old Dominion this year, particularly because of the schedule. I think it could be the toughest schedule, not only in the Sun Belt, but one of the toughest at the G5 level. Because I look at it, I look at my power ratings, I project them out. That's what I bet on. I don't have a single game on their entire 12-game schedule for Old Dominion this year where I have my clear favorite. not zero of the games. Yeah, there could be some toss-ups there, but 9 of the 12 underdog, and then the 3 favorite rolls basically right around 1. So, they're up against it. And not only that, but I don't like a lot of, the lack of returning production, particularly on offense. Don't see it. A lot of their skill guys that I liked last year are gone. Even some skilled guys on defense that are gone in the secondary that I liked that ended up transferring to power schools. And then obviously their best player on the entire team is Henderson, a linebacker, an absolute tackling machine, but he's coming off a significant injury and knocked him out of the bowl game. Is he going to be healthy this year? Is he going to be, even if he is, he's going to trust that leg? Sometimes when you've got a significant injury, you're just not the same. So if he's not the same, you're all leader on defense. I don't know. Where are the slam dunk wins on this schedule, man? I don't see it. I'm under 4.5. That's my best bet.
I'm with you. 11 one-score games last year for this ODU team. It's one that it kind of, got some of the positive variance in some of those games. And now in some cases, and as you see, the schedule, obviously the non-con is really tough. And then it didn't really bring in terms of in conference. I feel like they got the short end of the stick here with all of the teams that were kind of we would say down on. They didn't get most of them. They ended up having to play the cream of the crop in all these. They've got the Texas State, the App State, the Arkansas State, who like James Madison. So even at Coastal Carolina. So
we're high on BG. We're high on Virginia Tech. I think East Carolina is much improved this year. South Carolina, some people like more than me in the market. I mean, every team that they face, we're kind of like all the teams we hate, they don't play. All the teams we love, they do play. Yeah.
So I'm with you there. I just think they got a really tough schedule break, and it's I think there's some, this is not a Old Dominion is kind of it is what it is. They're a bottom tier Sun Belt program that had punched above its weight for a little bit. And, Ricky Rain had them at 6 and 7 for a little bit, but I mean, this is usually a bottom of the Sun Belt type program at a really tough place to win in a conference now where a lot of the conference is kind of trending on the upwards. And just has more, better players, better talent than they do. So, yeah. And as you said, Henderson, all conference, everything in terms of it, but is he going to be at 100%? Cause he has to dominate for them to, even, be in a lot of games. So yeah, I agree with you. I think best bet, we can go under on this one.
Love it. And similar to Charles Huff, I mean, this is year 4 or 5. You can't count the COVID season because they didn't even play football, but you shouldn't be having this much transfer. I know you're going to get rated in a little bit, but man, to have that amount of transfers again, I don't know. To me, that doesn't give me positive vibes. Speaking of transfers a lot, but there's a reason behind this one. Georgia State's next in line. Talk about a coach put in a tough spot. I mean, he's hired during spring practices where the head coach has a couple of spring practices, Sean Elliott, and decides, I'm out of here. I'm not even going to go for a coordinator job. I'm just going to go for a assistant coaching job at a skill position at South Carolina. So McGee, I thought, was a tremendous hire for such a late in the process move for Georgia State. Comes over from the Georgia staff, filled out his coaching staff pretty well with at least some experience there. But still, you got to downgrade Georgia State significantly. About a touchdown, so much uncertainty. I think he did about as good of a job as he could trying to fill out this roster in the portal. That Vayer kid who used to be at Penn State and Pitt at quarterback, we'll see if he can take the job. Other guys are in the mix at quarterback. I haven't bet it yet, but just generally speaking, I want to be pessimistic on Georgia State.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it's a really tough spot to be in there with kind of the spring turnover. And then having to bring in guys and see what you can grab out of the portal there. They did get some kind of maybe high ceiling guys that haven't worked out at other places. But it's going to be quite a task for Del McGee, who I agree has some potential. And to be able to get that guy, when after kind of the turnover and the coaching window is all closed. But I think 30 plus out, 30 plus in. So, as we've said, and that'll be kind of a staple of this show when you're and again, year 1, so maybe a little bit more optimism, but when you're turning over that much of your roster, I tend to lean more negative than positive. So, with that said, I haven't gotten involved on their win.
Yeah, I haven't bet it yet. I think if you see the juice there at FanDuel, if it's slightly less, like 20, 30 cents less towards the under instead of paying that's almost treating it like it's 4. That was minus 134 instead of minus 164 at FanDuel. I think I'd be involved. So shop around. I wanted to read more fall camp. I guess I'm having, I agree with you. I want to take a pessimistic approach with these first year coaches roster turnover, but then I still remember seeing a guy that shocked us all, GJ Kinney last year, who I was so pessimistic about. And he just crushed my expectations. I knew I had a loser in week 1 when he beats Baylor. So I want to read how fall camp's going on a few of these before I get too involved on some of these first-year coaches. A couple more left is all. Southern Miss could be – I like this coach, but he's just had bad injury luck. And now he loses a lot of his best players. Only 6 returning starters for Southern Miss. Will Hall brings in some guys. I think they can be much better at quarterback, brings in the kid from Florida State. But Frank Gore Jr., who was pretty much their all-everything the last couple of years – finally departs. I'm more pessimistic on this year's team. I think they could be underdogs in 10 of their 12 games, and we saw some win totals in that 4.5 range. I'm more pessimistic on Southern Miss this year.
We
got a disagreement.
You know what? I might screw you on this. I do like Rodemaker to come in. I thought it was a nice, and I agree with you. They have been.
Yeah, Rodemaker's that's a good move.
Yeah, ultra super reliant on Frank Gore for a while. They took like this just insanely aggressive blitz defense last year, which I don't know. I kind of like that when you don't have that much going on. In terms of talent, you just kind of and now again they gave up a ton of big plays, but it was a style. I tend to like the coach as well, Will Hall. It hasn't totally come together in any of the teams he's had so far. I think I bet this team a lot of years, thinking the upside would come together in a few cases.
What's that Zach pull up pricing on the win total?
I think I'd need a 3.5.
Of course it's 4.5. You need a 3.5 win off market.
All right. If you gave me a heavy juice 3.5, I think I'd be in.
No,
but
pass.
4 is probably the right number.
4 is the right number on this team. 4 is the right number. Yeah, give me 3.5. No.
I mean, it's one side. Listen, maybe we can.
And 4 is going to push. So we're
the new FanDuel guys here. Give me an all 3.5.
Yeah, no. You can bet it at FanDuel. You're not betting it with me. I think 4 is the right number for them. One more team, and bringing up the rear to say the least, UM-Monroe, who doesn't have much as far as facilities. Although I did see they've struck up some social media love, deservedly so. Going to have some new helmets that are pretty sharp that make some waves, but I don't know if they're going to make any waves outside of fashion on the football field this year. Only 7 returning starters from a team that already enters this season on a 10-game losing streak. And after the Jackson State game, we're talking about a team that's probably a significant underdog, at least a 2-touchdown underdog in 10 of their 12 games. And then I'll still be an underdog against Southern Miss. So not expecting much. There you go. Look at that. See, that's why he's the producer extraordinaire. I love those helmets. That gives you a cool look.
That's nice. No, I mean, hey, listen, maybe upgrade them a little, 10 or 15 cents in the market for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's somebody at least using it. You don't have much of a history. Since you joined the FBS 30 years ago, you've only been to one bowl game.
You don't need to have the same helmet you did in 1946.
Yeah, you can't. So I like it. Look, I get accused of being a boomer, old man yelling at clouds. I like that look a lot. In fact, I like a lot of what people are doing with the jerseys and stuff in the last year or two after wandering around in the stupid wilderness for 20 years with stupid jerseys. So people are making some good fashionable advice. That being one of them, strike up some hopefully some positive momentum. They did some things in the portal. Some interesting guys. They got a 4-star JUCO kid. We'll see how that works out. First 4-star ever for UM-Monroe. He's on the defensive line, a 300-pounder. Maybe if he works out, that could be we'll see. But they ain't got much. Vincent's a decent hire for this program. I thought he probably should have gotten a full-time gig at UAB and not Trent Dilfer. So I just think you got to give him time. This is one of the worst jobs in the country. So it's going to take 3-4 years, in my opinion.
I tell you what, I'll give you the 15 transfers. So 15 portal transfers from other FBS, FCS school, 27 JUCOs. 27 that's on top of the 15 transfers they brought in. I don't remember. 27 JUCOs is like when that's like pre-transfer portal when you get like a lower level job and the only kids you could get in 1 year that were eligible were JUCOs. That's like a throwback there. 27 JUCOs is so. I mean, this is a brand new team. With that said, probably going to be a rough year one. I know the win total is juiced heavy under on the 2.5.
It should be.
Yeah,
I know. I think optimistic is 2-10.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a tough introductory year here. Although UAB, Trent Dilfer, come little revenge spot in year 2. Jackson State, FCS. Could they be 2-0 to start the year?
Yeah. I don't think so.
I don't think so either. But probably 0-2 and then 1-11. But listen. Well, this only caveat I'll say is we just listed. There's like 45 new guys. Maybe they hit on a decent amount of them, and the team,
and we could be wrong. But then
that's all I got.
Yeah, that's where you start betting on. That's this is the type of team. And there's quite a few of them. We got to watch them early weeks.
Yeah,
and maybe we'll find some. Hey, I like what I'm seeing here. Market will be too slow to adjust, and maybe not for them to win a bunch of games, but maybe we find some prices we like as far as betting them on an individual game basis. Maybe we like what we see against Jackson State, and we bet them against UAB at home as a double-digit home underdog. We'll see, because I don't think we either like Dilfer. You got closing. What do we give out win total? Old Dominion under. Is that it?
Yeah.
Arkansas State Conference future.
Yep.
Is that it though?
Zach, and then the Texas State little sprinkle to make the playoff.
There we go. That's 3. Yeah. That's gonna be enough. ABC 1, 2, 3. I think that's enough, right?
Hey, you know what? Hey, plenty more to come too in terms of conference future stuff.
we will have a stacked portfolio. I'm guessing we'll have 30 plus bets. We did a very good job last year. And then, the difference between last year and this year, not only our sponsor, FanDuel, who we love, but we weren't doing a lot of off-season stuff. And we've been giving out on our weekly show, win total bets all off-season, where I think we just got it kickstarted last year with the conference preview. So we had like 40 or 50 bets. So a little bit less volume as far as these conference previews, but we'll still give you some. We got more volume as far as the weekly show. But for the man, the myth, the legend himself, Joey Knish, producer extraordinaire Zach Phillips, I'm merely Brad Powers. Thank you to our sponsor, FanDuel. We'll talk to you in the next conference preview here on Hit the Books.